This video is about Answer by Duffy, and I find this quite an unusual Duffy poem in the sense that every single verse screams out structure here. It's almost like a building that wears its foundations on the outside. It says, look at me, you know, this is what I'm built of. And instead of glass and concrete and steel, we've got repetition and rhyme and rhythm. And I wonder why Duffy does this. Well, it could be that this is a response to what a love poem should look like. Another way of looking at a sonnet, for example, is that that's what it is, isn't it? It's an artifice, it's artificial, it has the iambic pentameter and 14 lines, and Shakespeare has the last two as a rhyming couplet. And I think something of Shakespearean tradition is at the back of Duffy's mind here. I'll talk to you a little bit about the humours in a minute, and maybe you'll see what I mean. For me, the poem begins as a kind of a conversation with Shakespeare's Sonnet 130. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. You're probably familiar with this poem. And in it, the speaker lists all the things that his mistress is not. And the idea, I suppose, is to say that my love is a real love. It's not based on these poetic conceits. I'm not going to list all your beautiful features that are beyond any other lover, because that would be completely unrealistic. And the final couplet flips all these apparent insults on its head. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. And Duffy's poem is also exactly about comparisons, but she's keen in the same way to say, look, I'm not going to compare you to anything false because my love for you is real. Well, one interpretation of Shakespeare's sonnet is just that romantic one. All these apparent insults are not insulting. They are just me as a poet being realistic about what you're really like. And that makes my love more powerful because I'm seeing you as you really are, treading on the ground, and therefore my love for you is grounded and real. Well, the first thing I'd want to notice is the title, and typically with Duffy it's really ambiguous. Answer. So is this poem the answer, or is it a question demanding an answer? Answer me. Is it an instruction? And Duffy never tells us this, but those two interpretations will prove to be completely different. If you were made of stone, your kiss a fossil sealed up in your lips, your eyes a sightless marble to my touch, your grey hands pooling raindrops for the birds, your long legs cold as rivers locked in ice, if you were stone, if you were made of stone, yes, yes. And so you can feel, hopefully, a sense of longing in the rhythm of that verse, and also in the repetition of all these S sounds, the sibilance that's going on here. Your kiss, a fossil, sealed, very soft, very gentle, and it sounds as though one lover is wooing the other, but as usual there's a warning, and here it comes in the harsher sounds of cold, locked, ice. And there's this tension throughout the poem. Is the poet in love with someone who returns that love? We've got this conditional if, which is repeated at the beginning and end of each verse. If. Many people think of this as the saddest, loneliest word in the English language, and you get the idea that perhaps this love is not returned. So one interpretation is, answer me, I love you, and I want that answer in return, love me in return, and perhaps it does not come. But also the other interpretation is present. I love you unconditionally, and it doesn't matter whether you love me, I still offer you all my love, even if you were made of stone. And stone here is an image of being unfeeling. And so that feeling is old and dead, it's a fossil. The eyes don't see anything, they are sightless, like marble. Marble again is unfeeling. The grey hands feel nothing, but they just pool raindrops. And there's a kind of accusation here that the object of the love, the person she loves, is actually collecting tears for the birds, for other things, not for the lover at all. Your legs cold, not open to the lover, not receptive, as rivers locked in ice. But even so, even if that's true, the answer is still yes, I'm still going to love you unconditionally. And then the next verse. If you were made of fire, your head a wild Medusa hissing flame, your tongue a red-hot poker in your throat, your heart a small coal glowing in your chest, your fingers burning pungent brands on flesh, if you were fire, if you were made of fire, yes, yes. And here the sibilance has changed slightly. It's much more threatening. Medusa hissing. It's much more snake-like. It's much more dangerous. And if you know your Greek mythology, you'll know that a look from the snake-headed Medusa would turn you into stone, the thing that the lover was in the previous verse. And so suddenly the conditional if is looking a lot more certain. Yes, the lover may well be stone. There's this connection to the Medusa, and if not stone, then dangerous, like the snakes in the Medusa's hair. And these sounds are deliberately recreated, but again, that gentle sort of elegy at the end, that yearning is present in yes, yes, I'll accept you no matter what. And here, the feelings are also ignored in the lover. And so, even if the lover is made of fire, instead of a raging furnace at the heart, there's only a small coal, and we get the impression that this lover is actually not capable of a great love. And yet, the speaker, who I'll call Duffy here just for the sake of ease, but could be anybody, of course, she could be imagining another lover. Duffy is noticing that her lover has just a small heart. A small coal will burn out quickly. There isn't much there, even if she's made of fire. In the next verse, she looks at another element, another humour, if you like. So in Shakespeare's time, the humours were consisted of earth, fire, water and air. And this is what we have repeated here, although the earth is changed to stone. If you were made of water, your voice a roaring, foaming waterfall, your arms a whirlpool spinning me around, your breast a deep, dark lake nursing the drowned, your mouth an ocean, waves torn from your breath, if you were water, if you were made of water, yes, yes. And here she's dismissed the sibilants, those soft sounds, and suddenly we're replacing them. Suddenly she's replacing them with much harsher sounds, the repetition of T's and B's and D's and K's. They're all harsh. And just the sound of the poem gives us an idea of the lover turning against her. And perhaps water is closer to what she is. And it's worth looking here at what exactly is going on. Instead of treating the lover properly, she's nursing the drowned, and there's this idea that whoever she loves actually wants to destroy her. She'll only nurse her once she's dead. In other words, the lover wants to be all-powerful, and Duffy is reduced to powerlessness. And if you like the answer, yes, yes, I will take you no matter what, is an admission of that loss of power. And the whole poem is saying, I will accept you on any terms, unconditionally. I have no power, and you have complete control over me. If you were made of air, If you were made of air, your face empty and infinite as sky, your words are wind with litter for its nouns, your movements sudden gusts among the clouds, your body only breeze against my dress, if you were air, if you were made of air, yes, yes. And air is interesting here. Every single description is completely devoid of feeling. And so your face is empty. There's nothing there. There's no expression. Your words are wind. Again, there's nothing in the words. and your movements just create a breeze. But what sort of breeze? One that's empty. It's only breeze. And so there's a feeling the lover has completely withdrawn. There's no substance to him or her. They've disappeared completely. And then there's this strange image of language here. Litter for its nouns. And the sound of litter is harsh. The double T is repeated in it, as in infinite and empty. We've got that image of harsh sounds again. But very peculiar. Why would the wind have litter? Well, if we take litter as being rubbish, as trash, we can picture it picking things up and tossing them about in the way that the lover may be picked up and discarded. But litter is also the progeny of your womb. It's what cats and dogs give birth to. They have litters. So there's this idea of the lover giving birth to something. And what is it? It's nouns. Nouns are only things. They're fire, they're air, they're stone, they're water. And these things on their own are not enough. And to the poet, nouns are not enough. And this is why we've got these important adjectives here. The empty and infinite sky. Duffy's doing this deliberately to suggest that actually as a poet she needs something more, and she needs more than the love she's being offered. However, even though that's all the love she's being offered, and even though she needs more, her answer is still, yes, yes, I will take you unconditionally. And then finally, if you were made of air, if you were air, if you were made of water, if you were water, if you were made of fire, if you were fire, if you were made of stone, if you were stone, or if you were none of these but really death, the answer is yes, yes. And somehow we have to reconcile this appalling image with a love poem. And for me the appalling image is this: look, I will give my life for you, it doesn't matter, and I will still say yes. If you demand that I should die, I'll still say yes because my love for you is so precious. Well, in a way that's a rhetorical device, isn't it? I love you with all my life, I would do anything for you. But there's another way of looking at this. Actually, the lover is death. The lover has killed off the poetry that Duffy normally writes. And so she can't even rhyme properly anymore. And there's a deliberate half-rhyme here between death and yes. And this for me represents the two lovers, always incompatible, close to matching but never quite making it, yes and death. And she emphasises that deliberately by chopping this line in half. You know, every other verse, it's followed exactly the same pattern and it's had exactly that length. But here, it's cut short, as though Duffy's life as a poet is being cut short as well as a lover. What are we to make of this? Does Duffy condemn herself? Is she at fault for accepting this unfeeling lover? Or does she just condemn the lover for not meeting her halfway? Or is she saying, well, actually, I don't condemn you. It's not your fault you can't love me as I love you, and I'll continue loving you regardless. And really, I suppose your reaction to this poem depends on what your views are of love. Is it a wonderful ideal that you have to cling on to no matter what, no matter the reaction of the other in the relationship? Or should it be a meeting of equals? This is a real puzzle that the poem demands us to work out for ourselves. If we return to the stone, the air, the water and the fire, are these all held in balance by the poem, as though the love is in perfect health? Or is it suggesting that none of them are in balance? At any time one will dominate over the others. And so sometimes the lover will be air, sometimes water, sometimes fire, sometimes stone, but never all together, never balanced, never fully loving. And that would lead us to the end. The lover is really death, always destructive, always taking the poet apart. And so perhaps in this reading of the poem, the title of the poem, Answer, is a demand. Tell me that you love me. But the answer isn't that the poet is loved. We return possibly to stone, brought back by the image of the Medusa, turning the object back to stone, and here the object is the lover. And if there's a note of triumph at the end, I suppose it's that the poem is full of feeling, and despite the lack of feeling of the person that she loves, her feelings remain true. So here are the notes that I made for my students, and once again, if you want to freeze the screen and read them for yourself, that's fine. If not, I guess the video's over for you. So I'll show you the next few paragraphs. And I do this because I haven't read from this as a script. I'm not really sure if I've covered everything in it. There might be a hidden gem in there. And also it's hopefully a model of how easy it is to write about poems if you use short quotations and try to integrate them into what you're saying. There's a bit more on the second page. And then that's the end. So let me know if the notes are any use, and if you prefer a different kind of video, I might be able to make one. And good luck.